I'd like to talk a little bit about being a mentor, which kind of brings me back to my channel. You know, initially when I first built this channel, it was primarily to help my clients out, to give them information about specific topics on trees that, you know, might either be of interest to them or is specific to their particular problem. But over time, I've had a lot of aspiring young arborists and people who just love trees. A few of you armchair arborists out there, or maybe a lot of you guys have, you know, passed your days and just want to see what it was like to do tree work again. In any case, you know, I went for a little bit of a hike with my son, my youngest son, yesterday up at Castle Rock Park, and I found a very interesting tree that I'd like to share with you. It's a Pacific Madrone, one of my favorite trees. But sadly, many of our madrones are in trouble, as are many of the species of trees that we have in, well, all over, but you know, I see them specifically in California. So one other thing that's really interesting since I've started this channel is I find that there are other tree people from other parts of the world that like to share their information, and I really encourage you to do that, because this channel isn't just about me being the mentor teaching you about trees. It's about all of us interacting and building a community of people who like to share both their advice and their experiences and maybe what the trees are like in their part of the world. So hey, well, let's go check out a Pacific Madrone that I think is a pretty special tree. You know, we run across some real special trees in our lives. And this is a tree that I have been visiting for 55 years. And sadly, it's going downhill. This is a Coast Madrone, Pacific Madrone. And it's still alive, but for the life of me, as long as I've been looking at this tree, I've always asked myself, why is this tree surviving? I mean, it's growing way up on a rock face. The roots are embedded in the cracks in the rock, and it's to me, it's a marvel. It's a marvel. Sadly, it's got a lot of decay and it's got a lot of problems, but it's still hanging in there. And the roots, they wrap up and around and go down the rock over there. I think this is a magnificent specimen with a lot of old problems. My dog. So anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about this particular tree. Like I said, it was one of my favorite trees, but it's not a tree that does well in the urban environment. It is specific to the mountains. In my area, the Santa Cruz Mountains, they seem to be quite abundant, but they are susceptible to a disease called Botryopharia, which is causing many of the branches to turn black. In many cases, it kills the whole tree. But there's some other interesting things about this particular tree that I've noticed. When somebody develops a property and they scrape away all the duff, the natural leaf matter, the mulch, so to speak, then the trees seem to go downhill quickly. They don't like change. And they're also best grown in a grouping, very much like what you see behind me right here. I have a whole grouping of madrone trees, and these trees are doing better than most. I don't know if you can see up there, there's a lot of the red berries are developing, and they grow in amongst the Douglas fir, and in this case we have quite the grove of the tan oaks out here as well. There's a closer tan oak. But as you can see, up and through here, they're dying. We're having a lot of problems with the Madrone trees dying, and that is from the Botrytis variant. You can see how everything is turning black all the way down. There's a little bit of foliage down low that's still green on that tree, but that's going to be firewood pretty soon. So anyway, if you decide that you wanted to try to plant a Madrone tree in the urban environment, I think you would be sorely disappointed. Every time I've seen it done, they really struggle. They limp along. They don't do very well. So go for a hike. Go enjoy them where they belong. As a lot of trees, they really shouldn't be taken out of their native environments. Sit. Sit. Up. Are you hungry? How about you? Are you hungry? I think so. It's up there a ways too. Hello up there. There's my son. This crack is relatively fresh. That did not used to be there. There's another granddaddy Madrone over on that side. And most of the trees out in here, in this area, these are the canyon live oaks. I'm up in an area called Castle Rock State Park, and it's a beautiful area if you're into rock climbing and bouldering. I've been coming up here since I was 15 years old. Look at this root. This thing's embedded in the rock. It wraps itself all the way up and around. Now, this is cool. This is an ant mound. And right now, all these little ants are kind of cold, but a lot of them are taking wing. If you look really, really close there, you can see lots of little ants that are developing wings, and they're going to fly away.
Looks trippy.
This whole thing, I know, that's just, it's like a termite mound, but it's an ant mound.
There's probably millions.
Can you imagine just walking along in the woods and saying, oh, that looks like a comfortable spot to sit down?
Oh.
And it's alive. The whole thing is just alive. Millions of them on this little mound. You know, when I first started in business 49 years ago, it's hard to say that, 49 years ago, I was fortunate enough to find a mentor. And this old guy, he was probably 30 years older than I was at the time. And he was a long-time tree man. And he started finding these jobs that he needed help on, so he hired us to come in, and we worked with him. But he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot of the old world ways of doing tree work. And when I say old world, you know, it's like he actually had manila ropes. This was way back when. But it was some of that early education, the understanding of where our business came from, how it evolved, the early pioneers of doing tree work. I mean, there was a day that people didn't have chainsaws. You know, they used everything with machetes or hatchets or hand saws. And so I came into it, when chainsaws were a viable way of working. But the chainsaws that we had were nothing like the saws of today. And the gear, oh my gosh, there's been so many improvements in the gear. I am just truly astounded by the direction that this industry is going. So if you're new to the business, or if you're just getting started, I implore you to find a mentor. Either work for an old guy that's been doing it a long time, or find somebody that's got a lot of experience, and pay attention. Really see where they came from. Learn from their past experience as well as their past mistakes. So be safe out there.